Welcome to My Comic Shop History. I am your host, Anthony Desiato. This is our Con Season Survival Guide episode. I am joined by two of the alternate realities refugees. Across from me, making his triumphant return, we have former alternate realities co-owner, Drew Cheskin.
Hello.
And to my left, we have friend of the store, Brian O'Dea.
How you doing?
Well, it's very great to be here with both of you. This is the first time that you've been on the show together.
Yes.
I believe so.
Funny, Drew and I live right next to each other. We've been around, but even in the documentary, though, I don't think we were in any scenes together either. So I think this is our first all around since your journey started all those years ago.
That's right. I'm always looking for new combinations. Now, Drew, I said triumphant return because I don't know if we ever spoke about this, but the last time you were on was season 2, episode 2, The Deal of the Art, our
Yes.
big original art episode. That was, if I'm not mistaken, the highest rated episode of that season.
Ah, very nice.
One of the highest rated overall, and I got a lot of great feedback on that. So
Cool.
people seem to like it.
I did not know that.
Drew's got a good voice.
He's got a good voice, but a lot of great insight. I mean, there was we got really, really deep into the ins and outs of buying original art. So I'm hopeful that you'll have some similar insights about how to survive a comic convention.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
And Drew, you know, I've spoken about this on past episodes, but this is the first time that you're here for us to talk about it together. You officiated my wedding.
Yes. That was fun. I enjoyed it. I was completely shocked when you asked, but I think it went off pretty well.
I think everybody was shocked.
Yeah, we purposely didn't tell anyone. It was in the program, though, so that kind of gave it away.
Yeah. I kind of knew because I took the car with Drew, and they're like, just so you know, don't start freaking out. So I was like, but don't tell anybody. I was like, okay, mom's the word.
Yeah. No, that was great. We were so honored to have you do it. It went great. We did the whole Infinity Gauntlet bit.
Yes.
So instead of lighting candles as a unity ceremony, yeah, we had the gauntlet. You had a field day with that.
Oh, that was fun. And at least these people knew what Thanos was talking about in the new Infinity War movie.
Yeah.
So that was good. It was sort of a 2-year preemptive strike to let them know what's going on.
With the big snap of your fingers, you were wedded.
Yeah. But no, so that was a lot of fun. And Brian, I gotta break your balls just a little bit here
Okay.
for a moment.
Sure.
For years, this guy has been begging me, not begging, but pestering me for a DVD or Blu-ray of my comic shop documentary. And then finally an opportunity presented itself during the Kickstarter campaign, and you went for the art reward instead.
I took the art.
I appreciate the support regardless of which reward, but I couldn't believe it.
Not everybody. Why did I think everybody got a Blu-ray of it as a
No, that
reward?
was a
No?
specific-
Maybe that's how I read it as well. That's it. But that's all right. I opted for the art.
You can borrow mine.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, we did exclusive commentary with Bill Mayo on the comic shop documentary and by Spoon. So it's good stuff. I think you'd enjoy it.
Very nice.
Cool.
Did you get Roby on there?
On the commentary?
Yeah, was Roby?
No. Roby was here, though. We recorded the New Year's New Year's Day special.
That was a
Okay,
cool
okay.
episode.
That was fun. It was good to talk to him again after all this time.
Yeah. I miss Roby.
He was supposed to come to
The dinner,
our
or
breakfast.
the breakfast, yeah.
Our New Year's Day breakfast, but I think he said he wasn't feeling well or something. But that was too bad. It would have been nice to see him there.
It would have been great to see him.
Just dirty New York air got to him.
Yeah.
He's like E.T. He had to go home. He was dying.
Yeah.
He's working for Amazon, right?
He is. No, he's doing very well. Yeah, that was a fun episode. That was cool to get. It was him and Bill and Steve, so we had a good chat.
I must say, I've been listening to all the episodes. I just haven't listened to the latest one that was on May 30th that came out.
Oh, the Yeah guys?
Yeah, I haven't listened to that one
Oh,
yet.
cool. Well, I appreciate you listening. That means a lot.
Like I said, I was before we were talking and we went on the air or live or whatever recording. We were recording. I was like, oh, you inspired me to go buy comics again to see, like you were talking about Batman White Knight. So I was like, oh, that would be a cool story to read because obviously I'm a big Joker fan and stuff like that. But there's some nuances that were mentioned in the podcast that I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And
You, as a Joker fan, you should read it, if nothing else. But
Right.
As far as how much you like, I'd be curious to talk to you after you read it. So when we did that episode, only the first 6 episodes were out. Episodes, huh? I think I did it in that podcast,
you
too.
did do it in the
So the first 6 issues were out when we did that. So now all 8 are out, and I've read the conclusion of it,
Okay.
and I enjoyed it. And I won't spoil anything for you, but I was
okay.
hoping that since it's not an in-continuity story, I was hoping that they would take some more chances with the resolution to it. And
Is it like a Batman Gaslight type of thing?
I'll be honest, I've never read that.
Oh, okay.
So
That was actually very good.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
But it just, I don't know, I just felt like the ending was a little bit more conventional than I thought it was going to be, given that it exists in its own space. But it was definitely good. Like, it was interesting, and I think you'd like it.
So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You inspired me, but then I was going to look for back issues, and I couldn't find any back issues. And then, like, I'll have to wait for the trade. So now I just text someone and say, when does this come out? Because I'm not in the shops too often anymore, you know?
Sure. So this episode, it's kind of our mid-season finale, as it were. So this con season of My Comic Shop History will consist of 12 episodes total. This is episode 6. The second batch of 6 con episodes will start in September. So this is kind of the mid-season finale of the con season. But there will be new episodes all summer long. So the sub-series are going to take over for the summer months.
Fun.
So for the next 2 episodes, it's going to be a 2-part Superman book club event. Dan Greenfield from 13th Dimension, he's going to be joining me. The first episode in 2 weeks, we're going to be tackling all of the post-crisis tellings of Superman's origin.
Oh, wow.
So we'll be talking about Byrne's Man of Steel, Birthright.
You're going to have a field day.
It's going to be great.
These are going to be like 3-hour podcasts. I'm looking forward to this.
That one probably will be lengthy. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to be talking about Bendis's Man of Steel.
Oh, cool.
So we're gonna kind of take that apart a little bit, and I think that'll be fun. And then after that, the rest of the summer, there's a 4-part Beyond My Comic Shop miniseries with Ben Lichtenstein from Zap Comics. We're going to be talking about all of his collection buying practices. So people seem to really be into the Zap episode last season, so I wanted to spend some more time with him and talk about these crazy collections.
Rich Roney would love that.
Funny Rich Roney, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I've already recorded the Ben episodes. I'm currently like really deep into production on the next documentary, and so I needed to have some stuff like recorded and banked up. So I recorded the Ben stuff a little while ago, and the store's in New Jersey, not that far from where friend of the store, Rich Roney, lives.
We think he lives?
Where we think he lives. We don't really know for sure. But he happened to come in while we were finishing up one of the recordings, and again, the episodes are about Ben's collection buying, but over the course of our conversation, we touched on Wizard Magazine, the defunct Wizard Magazine, for like a couple of minutes. But that's what Rich happened to walk in for. And I kid you not, every time I have spoken to Rich since then, he's like, I can't wait for that episode. When I came in and you guys were talking about Wizard, it was great to hear Ben talk about Wizard. And I keep telling him, I'm like, listen, I appreciate that. Like, it's not about Wizard. I feel like he's really going to be let down, but he I really latched onto that. So
you should just completely cut that part out of the podcast.
That's hilarious.
Say, Rich, it's part of the extras. You have to join this new site to get it.
You should you should record an episode with Rich. Then plug it in where you can with that episode.
Yeah, I know. Actually, that would be cool. What I'm hoping to do is I'm trying to go with Odo to the Diamond Retailer Breakfast at New York Comic Con.
Oh, okay.
Because he still has his account and he still goes and he gets a +1. So hopefully his wife doesn't want to go and I can go because I really love to get into that meeting, and then he and I will do an episode about what we see there, and I'll probably bring Rich in for that too because I've never had Odo and Roni on an episode together. So I think
that'd
that could
be interesting. But I don't know. That'd be That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting, I think.
I think it'd be really cool.
So we'll see. So that's what's coming up on My Comic Shop History. So fresh content all summer long through the fall as well. And no more separate podcast feeds. Everything's under the one My Comic Shop History feed. So we make it as simple
even
as
the
possible.
older episodes, the past episodes, you got it under that as well?
Yeah, I rebranded and reposted the Flat Squirrel Tales Beyond My Comic Shop episodes. That was when we had our Crisis on Infinite podcast. So everything's there.
Awesome. Great names for these, man.
So, well, we got to have some fun with this.
Of course.
So now I do have another initiative, this Patreon that I'm launching, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to get into this con season survival guide. So this episode was born out of a listener suggestion I posted on Facebook a while back. Like, what kind of stuff do you guys want to hear? And someone chimed in and said, I think they went to, shout out to Eric, he had gone to a decent-sized show in Dallas and was kind of overwhelmed at just how much there was. And he was like, that's probably, half the size of New York or San Diego. So he was, just kind of curious about what insight, the show might be able to offer about how to navigate one of these things. So, so I thought we can kind of get into that. Now, obviously, there's some basic, obvious stuff like, wear comfortable shoes, pack a snack, and all that stuff.
Biggest one. Seriously, don't ever wear flip-flops. It's a disaster. Learned that the hard way, man.
Oh, you did that?
Oh, yeah, years ago.
Oh, man.
I did that. I think it was the first year of New York Comic Con, day 2. And I was just kind of strolling around. That's when it was downstairs, I think, right? Artist Alley was downstairs, or everything was downstairs. And then the fire marshals came in. And they
it was
closed.
only like one section, one hall of the.
It was very, very small for
building.
Artist Alley.
That was the entire show.
Was that the
Yeah, the
entire
first year, the entire show was like the northmost hall, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being very small, and even though it was at the Javits, but day 2, I was just, let me just wear the flip flops, see what happens. That mistake.
I know, I was kind of joking when I said that, but no, yeah, I mean, that's true. I was thinking of Nick Robeson.
Oh, he always wears flip flops.
I've called him out for that on the show before, but yeah, wearing flip flops. I remember seeing him there. I'm like, what are you doing?
But yeah, I actually did it as well. So
yeah, you want to
Roby's not alone, man.
You have comfortable footwear. Now, Drew, I want to hear a little bit about your Comic Con history, because you've been going to shows for a long time, and I suspect you've seen a decent shift in the way shows are.
Oh yeah, no, I started going to shows. First show I went to, I remember my mother took me down, along with my old best friend Andrew from elementary school, and it was at the Penn Plaza Pavilion, which I don't know if it's still called the Penn Plaza Pavilion, and it was probably one of the Carbonaro shows.
Oh God!
But it might have been, it might not have been. I don't remember. And I remember looking for Star Wars toys and everything else, and I think I might have purchased an X-Men 94 there, and it was like the huge purchase for $50 back then. But it was overwhelming. But the thing that's a little different is back then you went to the show, and this is where you saw everything. You were lucky. Maybe the local comic book shop had a lot of back issues. Maybe they had something special, a Hulk 181 or Amazing Fantasy 15. But when you went to these shows, you would see everything. There wasn't the internet. You didn't, there weren't podcasts talking about stuff, and there wasn't YouTube to look at everything. There weren't forums. I mean, it was maybe you would have, the trade papers for different stuff where you could, maybe looking like a penny saver and someone would be
they
selling
didn't
something.
really have trades back then anyway.
Well, they had
like the handbooks, right?
Yeah, but this is where we need Steve, because I can't remember anybody that remember. But they had the monthly publications.
Oh, right.
The little newspapers where people would have stuff for sale and this and that. But you didn't see this stuff. And it's almost a shame that, eBay first popped up and you looked at and you're like, oh, wow, now I can find whatever I want. And unfortunately nowadays now I can find whatever I want. It's not as special as it used to be. You see something walk in, you're like, well, I can go find this anywhere I want, anytime, day or night, and buy it. So back then the shows were more fun because it was, and you didn't have a show every other week or every week like you do now. You waited the whole year for the show to come around. You waited 6 months and you went to it, and you got to see all this stuff that you just didn't see, and you saved up your money so that you could buy it if you found it, that sort of thing. So it was fun back then. So not the shows aren't fun now, except they're super crowded. But it was a little different back then. I think it was a little bit more of an adventure. Sort of, am I going to find what I want? And you're either elated that you found it, or you're disappointed that
no smartphone, man.
Nothing.
I get it though, and I mean, like on a different scale. But I was thinking recently, or reading about Blockbuster, and how like the last few remaining Blockbusters are in Alaska, because the winters are long and the Wi-Fi is slow. And so there are still like a couple of Blockbusters out there. And I was reading about them and seeing the photos and stuff. And like I was nostalgic for Blockbuster. And I'm like, well, it's kind of silly because it's better now. I mean, you have access to anything. But I think there's something to be said. Like you would go to Blockbuster. You didn't know what you were going to get. And maybe you appreciated it a little bit more when you were able to walk out with something that you were excited to watch.
Go to Blockbuster and never get the movie you wanted, especially if it came out that week. You just never get it.
I think one of your next projects should be a documentary about Blockbuster, and should be called "The Winters Are Long and the Wi-Fi is Slow." That'd be a great title. I think it'd be.
That's actually great.
Part of me would actually love to. I mean, Steph has been to Alaska, and I hear nothing but great things. That's a place maybe we would venture at some point, not just for the Blockbusters, but it'd be kind of cool to go and.
Any comic shops in Alaska?
I'm sure.
In Juneau, right? I guess, or Anchorage.
Listen, I'm not flying with my equipment anymore. I think I'm done with that. That's been just as a quick side note. That has been a little stressful.
I was actually going to ask you about that because you're obviously not carrying it all on board.
Yeah, no, I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
No, the
that's
only
your carry-on? Oh, that's brutal.
So again, as listeners know, I've been filming this My Comic Shop Country movie, and so at this point now, again, I've done all of my flying with the equipment. Everything else will be driving. But the only thing that we check is the tripod, and we pack that in our big suitcase that we check with the rest of the clothes and stuff. So that gets checked. But then everything else, the hard case, and then our backpacks and stuff, that comes on with us. But one of the things that's really been frustrating me is, and I had a really good chat about this with Rich Roney, because Rich has done his fair share of traveling. He's like George Clooney and Up in the Air.
Yeah,
so we had a lengthy conversation about which flights he would pick and all this stuff. But there's no rhyme or reason for what gets flagged through security, because there have been times where I've gone through with everything and they don't open up a single thing. And then just this recently coming back from the last trip, I think I had some light clamps in one of the bags, and that set it off. And they unpacked, and we had our underwear in there and stuff. They're taking everything out. And he opened up the case where the lavalier microphone was, and he's grabbing it by the antenna. And I'm like, that's very expensive equipment. Please be gentle. So that's been a little frustrating. So thankfully,
well, it depends where you are too, right?
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I haven't been able to figure out any rhyme or reason. Sometimes it's fine, other times, and when it does get flagged, it's always something different. One time, the case that the camera's in, they had to open up and look at it, and again, this time it was the light clamp. So
right.
I don't know. In any event,
Step 2.
So I won't be flying to Alaska with the equipment, but it would be cool to see a Blockbuster. But no, I mean, everything that you just said, Drew, I mean, makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing that I've been thinking about in terms of the changes you've seen, and this is something that I hear a lot about from fans, and this popped up in the last episode, but I want to kind of talk about it a little bit more, is, this infusion of greater pop culture elements in comic conventions. Because I think one thing that you hear from a lot of fans is there's not enough of an emphasis on comics anymore.
None.
Is that something you guys feel?
100%. I mean, as Drew knows, and to give someone else who's been on this podcast, Chris Wilcock, his due, he does the pop and Undiscovered Realm. Guy works very, very hard behind the scenes. Just give him a shout out and pay credit where credit's due. The guy works very, very hard. But he does a lot of shows. But, I've worked for him, and this is recently in the last 2 years. He's gone around to the different shows, and a lot more emphasis on, obviously, pop finals and stuff like that. Whatever's on TV, whatever the hot movie is. It's more of type of thing as first in, first out type of thing. If an old accounting adage for inventory. You see whatever's new, you get that out right away, and all the other stuff is just kind of put back into the back room somewhere. So all looking for back issues and things like that, because you get to walk around the show and see where comics are. And to take New York Comic Con for instance. On the main floor, if we walked in the show, you would go to the right side, and there was maybe 2 alleys of comic book retailers, and that was really it. There was nothing else there. And, and they're bringing all their prime books as well. So I don't know how well those guys did at Comic-Con. They could have done really, really, really well, or they could have done very, very poorly, because those books are either going to move or they're not. It's one or the other. So, and they're trying to make your, the nut for the weekend to pay their, I don't know how much the table is. Maybe the table is $10,000 now. I don't even know.
I think there are a couple thousand a weekend each
table.
So if you're getting 4 or 5 tables, you could be spending that. I think the main thing that's happened, a lot of businesses or a lot of things that are started out of a passion for whatever the topic is that it's shows in general. Obviously, comic books or comic book properties, certainly with the help of the Marvel movies and the DC movies as well, the popularity has exploded over the past, I'm going to say, 20 years. Because while the Marvel Cinematic Universe started 10 years ago, Blade did well, the X-Men movies by Fox, Sony doing Spider-Man with Tobey. I mean, that stuff really did catch the public eye. Not as much, obviously, as the current stuff, but people liked Keaton Batman stuff. I mean, it all became very popular. So these comic book shows became not just something for fans, but for other people. I want to see what this is all about. And what happened is that the shows, which used to be, I would say, run by fans and hopefully generated some money for them, turned into a business. And when it comes down to it, you're going to get a lot more people paying to come and see the newest movie stuff or see television and movie stars than they are going to come and see comic books. So when you get Lucasfilm or you get Warner Brothers that are willing to pay money for a booth, you're going to get the people running the shows. It's like, well, I don't care, Mr. Comic Shop. If you can only pay $500 for your booth, that's what you used to do. That guy's willing to pay $2,000 or $3,000 for your spot. I'm willing to give it to you for the same price. But that's, and how are you going to do that selling dollar comic books? How are you going to do that when you're a comic book dealer, be having a Hulk 181 when the other 50 guys also have their Hulk 181s with them and their X-Men ones and their giant size number? I mean, that's the thing. You're not offering a unique product anymore, especially when someone will say, well, but I saw that on eBay for,
half the price.
Well, I mean, it's become a business. That's the problem, is that the show itself
is a business,
which is pricing out like anything. It's pricing out retail. Retail just can't compete anymore. So the shows consequently have become more pop culture. What can we do to bring in more people, charge more money, make it bigger, make it better? My first San Diego Comic-Con was 2003.
I went 2002. I went the year before you.
Mine was the first year with preview night, Wednesday night. It was $50 for all 5 days, preview night plus Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
I probably bought that ticket 3 weeks before San Diego Comic-Con.
I believe that's amazing.
Because Big Frank and Brandon were going. You want to go? We're all going to, share
a hotel room,
which we booked probably 3 weeks before the show. The Embassy Suites right down the street.
Yep.
And previews night was empty. Now, half the vendors weren't there. Most of the artists weren't there because no one was there. But even Thursday, even Friday, it was empty. It wasn't anything because they hadn't gotten into this big, hey, let's do like cosplay. People dressed up, but it wasn't what we know as cosplay these days.
It was they were run of the mill.
There weren't huge sections for video games. It wasn't huge anime type stuff yet. It wasn't game. I mean, it was comic books.
But they were starting the movies, though. I mean, I remember they were starting to get the Hollywood stuff in there because X-Men hit big, 2002? I guess that was that year it hit big, right?
Yeah.
And
2000, I think, was X-Men. I think Spider-Man came like 01 or 02. I mean, Spider-Man was actually after X-Men, yeah.
So whatever year that was, I mean, they started Hollywooding or Hollywoodifying. I don't know how to say it.
No, I hear you. I mean, that's why I was curious. Like, Drew, do you remember for either of you, but like the first show that you went to where you're like, oh, this is different?
Yeah, 100%.
Which one?
It was San Diego because we were just going to the church or we were going to the old pavilion. We even did a show in Madison Square Garden in like the hallways when like. I think Ringling Brothers and like elephants were walking down. Bill Mayo will tell you.
The circus was setting up, so they were like the animals were there. The
animals were running around. Bill Mayo will tell you some great stories from that Comic-Con. That was a great Comic-Con, by the way. Well, it wasn't great. It was fun because those shows were fun. We had a lot of fun. Now it's like it's work. It's an actual like job. You're sitting. You're getting up at 7:00 in the morning. You're going down. You're gonna unload and load into. Bring all your stuff into the show.
So you're speaking about like from a vendor perspective, because I know you do help out Undiscovered Realm.
If you're gonna go work for Chris, he's putting you to work. Like that's if ands or buts, and I won't like beat around the bush. I'm happy to go work and help him out, not a problem. But some people are like, oh, I want to hang around and stuff like that. I don't know who does that now, but it's a job. You're there to do. You're there to help him. Get rid of the product and sell the product and, make money for the business. I mean, the guy's been grinding it out. I think he hits like 40 shows a year, or somewhere around that, which is a lot. And then he's driving cross country, going to Florida, going to Chicago. I heard he had a really good show at Chicago. I know he loves Chicago. So
we had a good chat.
I think you recorded in Chicago, right?
We didn't record in Chicago, but we did a sort of a post-mortem on it when we got back with him and Chris DeLando as well, who works for Repop, the company that puts it on. So like that was cool. But yeah, no. Speaking of of Chris and Undiscovered Realm, he's one of our sponsors this season. So,
awesome.
I've been dropping in these commercials, for Undiscovered Realm.
Jingle?
But since you're here, let's just talk about Undiscovered Realm for a moment. We do the commercial now on the spot. Okay. Why should people check out Undiscovered Realm?
Oh, great variety of pops. I think they might be the largest on the East Coast for sure. I mean, I don't know anybody else who sells as many pops or gets all the exclusives. Literally, if Chris doesn't have it on the East Coast, you probably are not getting it. I mean, it's sold out or very hard time because he has people who can get them in various different places and get them to Undiscovered Realm. It's a great spot for the gaming community, people who play Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. He's got some comic books there. I don't want to get into that because I don't know what's going on with it, but I think he would like to have somebody actually, set up a Diamond account and be on top of...
Yeah, he's posted about that, like how he's looking for someone to kind of take ownership of the comic piece.
I figured actually, Drew or yourself would probably know something better than I would because I've been out of that for a very, very long time.
Jay Mizell.
Jay Mizell would be great, but...
He can't remember how to order. That's the only problem.
I would love it. By a spoon. It would give him something to do, too.
I guess.
Welcome to Undiscovered Realm, bastards.
I don't think he can make up the stairs, to be honest with you.
No, yeah.
I think the stairs might give him some trouble.
That flight of stairs might do him in.
Yeah.
But UR is great. So, whether you go visit them in person or you catch them at a show or you order from them online. I know they do a lot of online stuff,
But I think your best bet for getting the, whatever you want is catching them at a show because usually they're always traveling and all the good stuff is going to the shows. It's like you got to pull it off. Sometimes when there's a lull between shows, they put everything back up on the shelves and stuff like that. And 3/4 of the time, it's like, I was gonna pick that up. It's gone. Especially like Game of Thrones stuff, they fly off the shelves.
I mean, Drew, to your point, I mean, everything you said, I think is very smart and tracks, and I think accounts for why, we've seen this shift in shows. So in the last episode, I had Mike Nagin, who works for Reed Pop as well. He works on C2E2, but, we were talking about the Reed Pop shows generally, and it's like, take New York Comic Con, for example. It's like they got to fill that Javits Center. So it's like they're probably more likely to do that if they have a wider array of programming and vendors and all that kind of stuff than if it were more squarely focused on comics. So, it makes sense. And again, like those comic elements are still there, but they might be a little harder to get to because there's so many people and the show becomes that much harder to navigate.
It's mobbed.
So I guess, I mean, to really, dive into the, the title of this episode and like the survival tips and stuff, it's like, how do you navigate show? And I guess a lot of this could apply to any type of show, but I mean, really specific, like the big shows, like New York and San Diego, in terms of navigating them, I feel like, and I want to get your take, one of the first things you need to do is decide like what you want out of your experience and what's important to you. And what's important to you or me or anybody, might not be the same for anyone else. So, if you want to hunt for dollar books or you want to watch panels or you want to get original art, like whatever it is, if you want to dress up and you want to take pictures, like whatever it is that you want to do, I think you really do need to nail down like what you're looking to get out of it because there's so much, the lines are long, there's so many people, it's like you often don't have time to get to everything. So you really need to prioritize.
100%. For me, I remember when I was on the hunt for original art and stuff and actually as an attendee, and it was great because, we got professional passes in the past and stuff like that. I remember Brian Boland's first year at Comic-Con, and I was like, Brian Boland is one of my favorite comic artists. I was like, I don't care what it is. I'm just going to go to his table and camp out there. And I remember I was waiting there for literally, 6 or 7 hours before he even showed up. And I was like, whatever. I was like, this is what I want. My commission. He said, okay, no problem. Gave him the money. At the end of the day, came back and picked it up. Now, he only took like a certain amount of commissions for the entire weekend. And everybody said, I had the best commission out of the show. And I said, awesome, cool. It's actually like a cover recreation that he did of one of the Joker. I think it was when he took over DC Universe. I don't remember what the storyline was.
Is this the Joker's Last Laugh thing?
Yeah.
Did you do the covers for that?
I think so.
I'm remembering correct. That was a while ago. But
yeah, it's a long time ago. And I was so set on that. And Bill Mayo, because he had contacts with wasn't Albert Moy, but it was someone else. Who else had a big art table that he helped out back then?
Well, he helped Albert Moy.
Was it Albert?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay, maybe it was Albert. But at the end of the show, Bill got like a quick free sketch from Brian Bowen. I'm like, here I am waiting like everybody else, and he gets the quick sketch, and I'm like, oh my god. It's like, all right, no problem. But I think you have to pick at least one thing you want, and then gun for that. Whether it be a panel, whether it be a piece of art, whether it's like even if you're hunting for a pop or something, a hard to get pop or a comic or anything, like you have to have at least one thing to make it show not as much. If you're going into the show, like if you're just bringing your kid in there for like on a Sunday or something like that, I would not expect anything. Just wherever your kid goes, fine, and have some money in your pocket, and that's it, because they're going to want everything around them. So
yeah, the shows nowadays, unfortunately, you can't just say to yourself, I'm just going to go and look around.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah.
Because it's almost physically impossible to just go in and stroll around. You are constantly going to be cattle.
Wedged. You're wedged
you're
in there.
Gonna be, yeah, you're just going to be in the herd, and you're going to you move with the flow. And even if you see a booth that has something that you want to look at, there is a better than even chance that you will not even be able to navigate yourself into that booth. You are in a river swimming against the tide, and sometimes you just can't reach shore, and you have to sort of accept that. If you're just going to go, you have to say, you want to know what? I'm going to see whatever I can see, and I can't really be disappointed if I don't see something. And you have to know full well that if there's 10 things you want to see, you'll be lucky if you get to 2 of them, and feel happy if you do, just because it's difficult. And that goes to even if you have a plan for buying something. Say, I plan on getting this. Well, you got to find it, and then you're going to think to yourself, maybe someone else has it cheaper, and you're going to go looking around. You're going to say, wait, where did I see it before? Because I couldn't find it again. You're going to go back, and the guy's going to say, yeah, I sold it 10 minutes ago.
That's where the old adage, don't be a flat squirrel, comes into play. Because it's true. It's very tempting, especially at one of these things. Like you see a lot of dealers. And yeah, I mean, it's very easy to fall into that trap of like, oh, well, maybe I could get it for a better price. But yeah, you run all of those risks. That it'll be gone by the time you come back. That you won't even be able to find it again.
Hesitation kills.
Hesitation kills. Yeah. So, I mean, if you see something that you want that's like on your list and you've budgeted for it and, the price is what you're willing to pay, you should probably grab it. And,
I agree.
Cash is still king, although I've noticed a lot of vendors now, they do take credit cards.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, okay. So
I mean,
there's that.
We're in that age because most people are even PayPaling on their phone and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Cash is still king for negotiating, though.
Yeah, on that note, and I know now you guys aren't really like hunting and buying so much, but when you did, I mean, would you try to haggle or would you just
a little bit? Yeah. I'd be like, what's the best you can do? I mean, I'd be like, here's bottom line, what's the best you can do? And some guys would be like, I can't do anything. I was like, okay, no problem. Then you just lost it. You just lost the sale. And they'd be like, oh, no, come back. And I was like, dude, we already went through this. I asked you what the best you can do. I'm not going to haggle. So, but I mean, some of the guys would say, okay, I can do about this. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But I was hunting up until last year. And I still kind of hunt now for older books and big books. Depends on the show. Believe it or not, smaller shows are where you find the better stuff. I mean, big shows are not where you want to be looking for big books, put it that way, or anything specific. I mean, I think Comic-Cons, you are looking for exclusives. I think that's the big thing, is trying to get all your exclusives and whatever special, product is coming out for the specific con, right? Because they put it on eBay 10 minutes later for an exorbitant amount of price. I mean, that's just the way the nature of the beast is.
Yeah, I remember when I tried to get the Dragon Zord Pop exclusive at not at a convention, but it was like Hot Topic had a simultaneous release or whatever, and it was not to be had. But I eventually was able to get it through Undiscovered Realm. So there we go.
Like I said, it's good to know Chris.
Yeah, but going back to Brian, your story about Brian Boland and how like you spent an entire day getting that piece. I probably told this when we did the original art episode, but I killed an entire day getting a Superman piece by Francis Manapul, and I remember being very annoyed at the end of that day. Like it wasn't a great experience. It's like I was in line literally the entire day. A lot of artists, if they're going to do a piece as detailed as he does, like they'll take a list and then they'll work on it throughout the show and you'll go and pick it up. But I don't know if he still does it this way. This was 10 years ago at this point. But he did them all on the spot. So, and I was, I don't know, sixth online. So, and he took a long time with each one. So that killed an entire day. But I've had that hanging on my wall for years. I look at it all the time and I like it and I enjoy it. So it was worth it. But in the moment, I guess that's the thing. It's like,
you look back on it and then hindsight's 2020, right? It's worth it now. But at the time you were annoyed.
I know part of me feels like this was a weird topic for the show this season for me personally, because it's not like I love Comic Cons,
No.
Comic shops are one thing, but like the cons, and I've talked about this before, it's a little bit of a love-hate relationship, and there's a lot about it, like the crowds in particular, and the lines and the waiting, that can be very trying for me personally, but I feel like what you can get out of it, and the memories and all of that, or physical stuff as well.
Well, you have to be. You have to be. I mean, it's funny, and don't laugh, but I think you have to be in shape nowadays just to even handle a Comic-Con, because the physical toll.
Yeah.
You take. It's a long day. It's a very very long day. You're not. There's nowhere really to sit down. You're indoors for almost the entire day, so you're not getting any. You're not getting fresh air, which is, that's how people get sick. I mean. There's a big thing. Hand sanitizer.
Yep.
Bring your hand sanitizer when you go to a Comic-Con, or if you're working it, obviously, because you're dealing with money, you're dealing with people. I mean, when we worked last year, I was always asking for hand sanitizers. Like, I had to get it. Like, I think I was one of the few people who did not get sick at the weekend, but then I got sick like 3 or 4 days later, and I was like, oh man, I thought I missed it.
I know, like almost catches you.
It's
almost
like,
always catches you at some point.
Well,
it's inevitable. Like,
what we need to do is have a booth next year selling hand sanitizer, selling deodorant, selling breath mints, and I'm sure a few other things. You'd probably make a killing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I think they do that. I think they even like someplace. I think one year I remember them handing it out. I remember them actually handing out hand sanitizer for free. So. I don't ever see them giving deodorant out, but that's probably a good one.
Or just charge 5 cents for a spray.
Yeah. No.
Just lift your arm up. That's 5 cents, please.
I mean, look, it's a bit of a cliche,
25
but
cents, right?
it's a bit of a cliche, but I mean, it's true. I mean, it's a lot of people packed in there, and even though these are massive spaces that we're talking about, it gets hot and people get stinky and sticky
It's smelly
and all that. But no, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. There is a physical toll to this. Like whatever you're doing at a show, like if you're a vendor and you're whatever it is that you're doing, but especially like walking the show and stuff. So again, that's where comfortable shoes come into play.
Huge.
Knowing your limitations, I guess, would be something else I'd recommend to people.
I mean,
like, know how much you can do.
Even the adage is like, oh, pack a snack. You're gonna need more than a snack. I mean, you have to get a full meal. Get your carbs in. I know.
No.
This was my trick at San Diego Comic-Con.
All right, here we go.
Uh-oh.
Every year. King size Snickers.
Okay.
You have breakfast.
Right.
And when you get hungry at about 12, eat a king-size Snickers. First of all, thing's got about 4,000 calories, so it will power you all. But it makes you so sick that you are not hungry for the rest of the day. You're like, oh, I can't believe I just ate that. And you're not hungry at all the rest of the day. But it's enough calories that it will actually keep you going.
I mean, you should, well...
Of course, that's also why I get stents in my heart at the age of 41.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if I would subscribe to that, but
I don't either.
I do
Carbs.
say pack food too, because the food at these convention centers is very expensive.
But like even an energy drink is a Gatorade or something just to replenish your sugar or something like that. I remember actually this past year, I mean, I've taken a health kick lately, right? So I try to drink as much water as possible. But I knew we were going to the show, so I literally got Gatorades, because Gatorade is actually a lot better for you when you're trying to hydrate and just keeping your energy up. I mean, water doesn't really do much for you except just hydrate you, but doesn't give you any energy. Gatorade was like so huge. It was key. I mean, not that I didn't have anything solid in my stomach until like later on in the day, but it was great. I had breakfast every morning, but like by 12 o'clock, whatever came around, you were just pounding the Gatorade. So, I mean... It worked, but, having a snack is huge. Having like an apple or a granola bar or something like that is massive.
And not only is just one day of a show demanding, but if you're doing an entire weekend, like you really do need to pace yourself and get rest too. I mean, I think that's something that often doesn't happen for a lot of folks. Like I remember when San Gregorio and I went to San Diego a couple years ago for Bleeding Cool, I was kind of like an old man. Like we would go out after, and then I was like, all right, I got to go back to the room. And I wrote up my articles for Bleeding Cool, and I went to sleep. And even then, I wasn't getting a ton of sleep, but at least a little bit more
Didn't
than
go
him.
to those after parties, man. I heard those parties at San Diego's are great.
I went to one, like at one of the hotel bars where the creators were hanging out. Like it was cool and everything, but even then, I still left before him because I'm like, I gotta rest. Because it's like, and again, so that's something that if you can function on a little bit of sleep, like fine, go for it. And
Chris
I think you'll
Wilcock
have
is a master of that.
Yeah, I mean he is, and I think like for these shows, like everything's so heightened, like you can kind of run on adrenaline for a little bit. But again, especially if you have to know your limitations. So if you need a certain amount of rest, like really try to do that. And again, pace it. So maybe you go out all night, like the last night of the show or something like that. Maybe
It's
not the
usually a
first
Sunday,
night.
though.
True, but or this, like the Saturday into the Sunday or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it definitely does take a toll.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if you go to the show, you're there. Well, someone says, let's go get some food. I'm not leaving the show. I'm at the show. I'm here for the show.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, that's going to take 2.5 hours, and I might not be able to get back into the show, and I might miss something. I don't know what you're going to miss. Maybe like aliens are going to land in the middle of the show. I mean, I don't know.
Be cool.
But it's like this fear. It's like, no, I'm at the show. I got to stay at the show. I don't care that I'm bored. I'm at the show. I got to go to the show. And you can't do that. You got to be like,
100%.
wait a second. You know what? I'm running down on energy. Let me go get a little something to eat. Let me recharge, and I can go out there. So definitely don't worry about missing something at the show.
No.
Panels are also a great way to kind of rest up a little bit, and I'm not just saying that because occasionally I host a panel and I would love to see more people in the room, but you can sit, and they're usually air conditioned. Like it's nice, some good content.
Don't
some
people
stuff you
like
can
wait
watch.
through other panels so they can get to some of the panels and
So
stuff like
so that's another good tip. And at certain shows, like San Diego in particular, you might want to do that. One thing that you do want to check is whether or not they clear the room after the panel.
Yeah, because sometimes they don't,
do,
and you're standing there for no reason.
Exactly.
I went to the Ninja Turtle panel. This is the animated? Well, I think it's since ended on Nickelodeon. Yeah, but I got online for that panel, but they didn't clear out the panel from the last one, and this was at New York Comic Con, so I was way in the back, and I was like, oh man, just to catch like whatever little scene for the last season or whatever it was. It was cool to see Seth Green. He really is short. That short in real life. I didn't realize he was that short, but but if you ever see Seth Green at a show, man, tell him, say what's up, because he walks to shows all the time.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So does Mark Hamill. Apparently, I didn't get Mark Hamill. I was kind of disappointed.
I saw that guy from what are those werewolf movies?
Underworld.
From the first movie, like the huge guy with the
Yeah.
I see him walking around the shows.
He's always around the show.
Yeah, him and Thomas Jane.
Oh, okay.
I was sitting with Ron Lim one time, and someone leans over and says, "Oh, that's really cool." And we're like, "Who?" And Ron's like, "Oh, thanks," because Ron's drawing doesn't look up. It's like, "Yo, dude, that was the Punisher." He's like, what? He's like, "Oh, that's cool. That's great."
Well, that was like
stuff.
we were at Foxwoods and Ron and Chaz Palminteri comes up to Ron. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, that's the guy out of the Bronx Tale." Is that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was neat.
You mentioned sitting with Ron, and Brian, you've brought this up too. There's a bit of a tradition in the AR community of attending these shows with vendors or with creators. Like Tom is always there at the table with Ken Marion.
Oh yeah.
Again, like I went and Mike has gone too for Bleeding Cool. I mean, I think if you have the opportunity to like get access to a show in one of those ways, I mean, this is very specific, and not a lot of people are going to have these particular opportunities.
I mean,
but
Ken and Tom are very good friends.
Right.
So I mean,
but I don't know. I guess if you do have some kind of relationship like that where you can help out and get in with them or something like that, it's a cool way to experience the show, I think.
It as funny as it sounds, it gives you a place to rest.
Yep.
And a place to leave some stuff.
yes.
So you're not dragging it around the entire time,
That's actually huge.
which is big.
Yeah. As far as dragging stuff around, good segue there. We talked about not being a flat squirrel, and that's important. That's good advice in life and at conventions. But, you don't want to overshoot the mark too much in the other direction. Because both times that I went to San Diego, I made impulse purchases that I regretted instantly and still to this day regret. I remember at the first one I went to, I got this big Superman poster. And it was great, but it's like something I could have just ordered online. And like I've got this big poster I had to get this big, one of those tube cases for.
Yeah.
it just became this like albatross that I'm carrying with me. And then I did the same friggin' thing when I went 2 years ago and I got the Kenner Superpowers. Gentle Giant put out. I talked about this in that episode afterwards. But Gentle Giant put out these like jumbo-sized replicas, and they had the Superman prototype, and I got it, and it was huge. Couldn't fit in a suitcase. I had to ship it home, which, as I talked about in that episode, was exorbitantly expensive. So I regret both of those purchases. So, again, don't be a flat squirrel, but at the same time, keep in mind, you're going to have to lug this with you for at least the rest of that day, unless you have some place you can leave it, which is rare. And, if you've flown or whatever, like, you have to get this home in a suitcase or something. So just be aware of that.
Well, if you're going cross country to get specific stuff, I would be more prepared just to be like, okay, to get the general post office box now, the flat rate ones, whatever they have. I mean, just go and USPS it back to your own house.
I used to buy lots of statues. One of the things I would get at San Diego Comic-Con were Bowen Designs exclusive pieces to the show. Now, generally speaking, they tended to be their mini busts or mini statues, so they weren't large. But whenever I went out to San Diego, you're only going for 3 or 4 days. So you generally have one piece of luggage. And back then, airplanes let you put 2 pieces of luggage on for nothing. So what you did with your swag was you purchased a box, used your dirty clothes for padding, packed up all of your swag into that box, and checked it on the plane. And you got it home for free.
You still checked it, though? I'd be nervous with statues, but they were all right.
They're not going to move.
That's true.
They ship from China.
Yeah, fair enough.
And no one's treating them nicely. So if their retail boxes are pretty good, they protect them. If they're inside another box with your dirty clothes as padding, they tend to do okay. And that's how you get it home for free. Nowadays, you have to pay $25.
I think it's $50 for another bag, right?
But if you're shipping a whole bunch of stuff, it's going to cost you that much anyway. Then you got to wait. Hopefully it gets there. You don't know. This way it's with you. You get it when you get off the plane, and that's the end of it. So that's another sort of con tip for people that go places.
Now, when you get into a show, do you try to walk the whole floor once to scope everything out, or you start with whatever your mission is?
100%. But
you scope everything out?
I would walk around once just to see where it is. Because if I know I'm going to go back there at some point, I can just go back and forth. I mean, it was a lot easier to do when you're working for a vendor because you get to see the floor before anybody's on it.
Yeah.
So you go walk the show literally to see where things are. And if, some vendors will let you buy then and there. So you can actually get some of your shopping done prior to the show and then not have to worry about it.
That's another reason why I'm hoping I can go with Odo to that retailer breakfast so I can get in early and just kind of scope everything out. And it takes some time to get your bearings too, especially for people who are listening to this who are planning to go to New York or San Diego for the first time.
Oh man.
I mean, it does take a little while to just take everything in and get
But even their line outside as an attendee, just to wait on that line to get into the show. I remember we bought tickets 3 years ago and I went on a Sunday because my godson wanted to go. And we waited on that line. It was just miserable. I was like, I almost regretted it because I didn't want him to have a bad time. But he was so young, he didn't care. He was just happy to be walking around at a big show at Comic-Con, and it was we took him down to Artist Alley, met a couple of artists. Great thing is having kids. The artists will give them free sketches, especially if they're a big artist.
If you're just going to have fun for the day, and not for any particular purpose per se. And even then, unless you're going for something unique, if you want to get an artist, there's no reason to be their first thing. For me, the show opens at 10, I arrive at 10:30, and I walk right in.
That's how Steph
I'm not going to get there at 8:30 and wait online to get in at 10:15. I get there at 10:30, and by 10:35, I'm inside the show.
I agree. Well, that's what Steph and I did for the New York and C2E2, and it was great.
Oh, yeah?
Just walk right, yeah.
Walk right in.
And again, we didn't have any specific missions. It wasn't we have to be there
right.
to be the first in line for a sketch or whatever. So,
yeah. I don't care about being on Fox News. This idiot got online at 1:30 in the morning on Friday
now it's
to be
more,
the first person.
Now it's more trying to meet celebrities, which is something that we didn't have years ago. We wasn't really there to see celebrities. And you know what it was? We were seeing B-movie celebrities.
Yeah, the celebrities we were meeting were not the draw.
Well, no, I remember we were in... the Pavilion, I guess it was, the Pavilion, and Peter Mayhew was there, and who played
Carrie Fisher that's on the first floor.
Yeah,
when the star Carrie, they were behind
Yeah.
It was like the Wizard of Oz. They were the people behind the curtain.
Yeah.
They were hidden because they didn't want people taking photos of them. But Carrie Fisher was there, definitely. I guess Peter Mayhew may have been there. I don't know who else was there.
What was the guy who played Willow?
Oh, Warwick Davis.
Yeah, Warwick Davis. Thank you. Sorry, Warwick Davis, if you're listening to this.
Yeah, but it was different back then. They were there. First of all, you'd never get those people to a show like that now.
Well, now they have Celebration, and like you're waiting hours to meet these guys, and I'm glad they're getting their due now because they paid their dues going to all. It's funny to say that those guys are actually the pioneers of the celebrity photos and the celebrity signatures and autographs. And those are the guys who grinded it out, and now it's only. They're getting it now. Like for a guy like Peter May, who probably can't even walk anymore properly because I think he's wheelchair. I don't know if he's wheelchair. I think he's on crutches, right?
Yeah, he can't get around.
His knees are shot.
Yeah.
Oh, he's ginormous.
Yeah.
But and like I don't know if David Prowse comes around at all. I mean,
not really. I don't think he's a fan of Star Wars these days.
So that's an aspect, like meeting these celebrity guests and getting a photo or an autograph. Like I've never really pursued that.
Topanga?
No, I just happened to run into her at the San Diego Comic-Con Film Festival. That was just random. Yeah, she wasn't there as a guest. She was there because Ryder Strong, who played Sean on Boy Meets World, he had a short film in the festival, and she just came to support him. So that was cool. Yeah, if you can like run into someone, like just kind of, like that's pretty cool. But as far as like if you do want to get a photo with someone or an autograph, like I really don't have any experience with that. Like what tips would you have for someone?
It's the same thing as anything else.
Just get in line early?
Get in line early. But they have like schedules for when they're going to be there. So you can't, and they post them up on a screen. So they'll take their name off and they'll move them somewhere. It prevents people from, I guess, line, waiting and stuff like that. Just waiting online to be first come first served because they're only allotting so many signatures now. I think some guys only say okay, it's 100 signatures or 100 photos for an hour or whatever it is. But I mean, you get zero time with the celebrities either. You're walking in, stand at the X, arm around, click, you're done, you're out. So
yeah, I think that's the thing for people that they need to understand. If they have this grand idea in their head, they're going to meet their favorite star. They're going to shake their hand. They're going to talk with them. They're going to they might not even look at you. You might literally get up there. Their manager or assistant will say, "Which photo do you want?" "I like this one." "Okay, $150. Thank you." They'll slide it over in front of whoever it is you're there to see. They'll sign it. The manager will take it back, hand it to you, and say, "Thanks, next," and that's it.
Yep, 100%.
And if it's worth spending 4 hours online and $150 to get that and miss whatever else is at the show, hey, more power to you. But it's not like, hopefully, meeting a comic book artist or a writer that, assuming it's not someone like Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane, which is the same thing.
I'll never get my Jim Lee sketch, man.
Yeah, I mean, that you'll hopefully be able to shake their hand and at least say, "Hey, I really like your work. This is my favorite." And they'll give you, "Oh, thanks, I appreciate that," not really caring what you're saying. But at least you'll get a sense that you got to say something to them and that they acknowledged you exist as a human being versus these signatures you're getting. Don't think that you're getting anything out of it besides literally something you probably could have bought online for about the same amount of money.
If I could just go off on a tangent. For 20 years, I've tried to get a Jim Lee sketch, and I still haven't gotten it. I thought my best chance would have been when Brandon was working at DC Comics, and he was the editor on, I guess...
Yeah, Brandon Montclair, former AR owner turned editor / comic creator.
He does Moon Girl and...
Rocket Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Yeah, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur and Rocket Girl, yep.
So, and that's doing pretty well for him,
got an option. They're turning into a cartoon.
So, I think that's awesome. I mean, that's so cool.
That's cool.
Like, how do I know? I was like, I knew a guy who's going to make a cartoon soon. That's awesome.
So he was on the second episode of the season, and the news broke like the day after I saw him, and I emailed him. I'm like, "Congrats!" I'm like, way to keep it under wraps. And he was like, "Oh, I forgot they were even announcing it today or whatever." So, but yeah, no, that was. Really cool.
I think he has a lot going on the plate, and he also is very smart in doing stuff because he does small local shows. He won't do anything too big. I think that's probably, if I had to give any advice, is if you can avoid the big show, go to the smaller shows. because it's not as congested. You can get stuff around. You can move around. I mean, if you want to go for the spectacle to the San Diego or the New York Comic Con, okay, fine. I hear nothing but good things about C2E2. So it seems to be as big as New York or as big as San Diego and just not as crowded. So that's something I might be looking into just to go as an attendee next year.
That was my take on it. Yeah.
It's as popular. It's not anywhere near the size, though, unless they've moved locations. Still at McCormick Place? Yeah, it's not physically, at least it wasn't when I went however many years ago, was anywhere near the size of New York or San Diego, but you may know better.
It was pretty. I don't know for sure, but yeah, it was. And again, just in terms of the look and feel of it and the content and everything. It felt very much like you would find at the Javits Center. But yeah, you actually had room to walk and move and breathe. It was nice.
That's because Mighty Mike Nagin's running it now.
That's right.
I'll have to ask.
Increased it in size.
I have to ask Chris Delando to help me out for that one.
I had Mike on the show 2 weeks ago, right after we recorded. There was this big hullabaloo with Reed Pop. You guys probably, I don't know, maybe you saw this like on Newsarama or something, where a lot of creators were denied professional passes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Allegedly was a glitch of some sort. So, yeah, that happened. But
that was for the New York Comic Con.
That was for New York,
yeah. That was not Mr. Chris Delando.
That was not, no, I was not trying to put it on Chris. I'm just saying that happened right after we recorded. So, had it been before, obviously I would have asked him about it. Maybe we could have gotten some insight into it.
Well, that was like the first year at New York Comic Con when the fire department came and basically said, you have too many people in here. And John Byrne went out to use the restroom and they wouldn't let him back in. He's like, but I'm John Byrne. I have to get back to my table. And they're basically like, we don't care who you are. You can't go in. He's like, but I'm John Byrne.
That's amazing.
Like,
yeah.
Who? That's what they probably said. Who?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
saying that to a New York City firefighter, I'm John Byrne. There's probably a million John Byrnes in
Yeah, exactly.
So like, okay, who are you related to?
As far as, I mentioned like these creators getting their or not getting their passes because of this glitch, but as far as just getting tickets and airfare and hotels for these shows, that's its own
pricey.
Animal. Thankfully, like where we are here in Lower Westchester, we're close enough to the Javits Center. It's easy to take the train or drive down. But
I recommend the train.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I
parking.
drive.
Have you been okay with parking in recent years?
Yeah. Well, I'll say yes, only because I just park wherever I park and I don't care what the cost is.
Okay.
Because generally speaking, I would have a few friends in town. And when you started adding up the cost of each of us buying a round trip ticket on Metro North and each of us paying for a taxi or subway and the time and effort and everything else, it didn't matter if we were spending $60 or $70 on a parking spot.
Right.
Because it was the same exact cost overall anyway.
Fair enough.
So I wasn't, someone was like, I got to park for $22 or it's crazy.
No.
Yeah, it's going to cost us,
Right.
it's going to cost us this much anyway. So
No,
it
I
doesn't
agree.
matter.
I drove in when I was working for Chris last year at the New York Comic Con, which was, it was handy enough because he has a secret parking lot that nobody's figured out yet. So, and I'm not going to give that up.
No,
I'm not going to give that up at all. But it's relatively close to the Javits Center, and you can. So, but very, very handy. But it's actually really inconvenient to get to. It's kind of confusing how you get to it. But I say take the train if you're, don't have too many people going to it. And
if you don't plan on bringing too much back with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
100%.
that's part of it,
Well,
too.
you got to walk across town, obviously.
And for hotels and everything, like especially I'm thinking back to my San Diego experience. Do it as early as possible.
How much do the hotels run for San Diego, like at night? Nowadays, I remember when I went there it was like nothing.
No, it's like $300 or $400 a night now.
Something
Really?
like that. It's expensive. So again, like if you're going with people, at least you can share and you could split it.
But $300 a night's a lot.
The place that I stayed both times, and San Gregorio stayed with me last time, was it was a Marriott, and I forget exactly where it was, but it was like a good maybe 15 minutes or so from the convention center, so it wasn't like one of the ones that's right there. But like we Ubered back and forth, and it wasn't so bad, and we were able to get a room, obviously, which, again, like that's the thing. Like sometimes you can't even get anything.
Well,
So
it's not. I think there was a recording on an episode here that somebody booked a hotel a year in advance, and the hotel wasn't there anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was like, I was like, oh my god.
Was that? I think that was Shiegel. I want to say that was Greg Shiegel.
It could have been Greg Shiegel. But that was I found that story very humorous, but I was like, wow. And it's like, oh, this hotel was great, and it's like I wanted to go book, and it's like it was very convenient. And then the next year, doesn't exist, and not like they brought their family with them. He like brought their wives or girlfriends or whatever. You know, I thought
Like they literally showed up to where it was supposed to be and it wasn't there.
Apparently,
Yeah.
that was a first for me. I mean, no, that's something like they could make a story out of. You know what I mean?
I know.
He could write on that.
Well, it's like when Thor and Loki went to find Odin and Thor Ragnarok, and the old age home just wasn't there anymore.
That's true.
It's like, whoops.
That's
True. So these last couple of shows that I went to with Steph, that was the first time where I actually spent the entire show with someone. Like every other
really?
time that I've got like with people from the AR crew or whatever, like we go together, but then like we just kind of peel off. And
Oh,
we just do
really?
our
When
own
you guys
thing.
cosplayed together, you
No, for that we like, with,
Oh, okay.
you know, that was with Steph. So for that, we, you know, she and I were together for
Right,
the
right.
whole show. But that was really the first time. I mean, previously, any time like I went again with like Mike or Tom or like anybody, you know, we would just kind of go off and do our own thing. Which I mean, is that typically what it's like for you guys?
It's the best
It's
way
the best
to do
way.
it.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Because
Why?
you don't have to worry about anybody else. Like
You
I'm
look at
not
what
waiting
you
on
want to
them.
look at as quickly as you want or as
Yep.
slowly as you want, and you're not waiting.
It's also easier to navigate the floor, like when you don't have to worry about. Not, I mean, I loved having Steph with me, but it's like you know when you want to make sure like you're staying together and you're not getting lost in the shuffle and all that stuff. So you just have yourself to worry about.
You want to see whatever he may want to see a Hulk thing, and I might want to go see a Batman or a Joker thing, and they're on the other side of the floor. I'm just like, you go that way, I'm going this way. If I get finished done first, I'll go meet up with you or whatever, vice versa. But always cool stuff at the cons. You know what I mean? It's always like your eyes are bigger than your wallet, I guess, most of the time.
Yeah.
But I also another tip is budget well. Be prepared to
Yeah.
spend X amount of dollars, and if you don't have it, don't put it on a credit card or anything. Just cash is king, as Drew said.
I would go to a lot of shows, bring a lot of cash, and come back with a lot of it. And I considered that a win, as funny as it sounds. When you come back with money, it's like, great, I didn't buy for the sake of buying and this and that. One year I said, I'm not buying anything, so I'm not bringing any money. Of course, I found something I wanted. So a big shout out and thanks goes to Phil, who loaned me the money to get a page that I
Phil Sane?
wanted. Yeah.
All right.
Phil
We got-
Insane, one of our original art episode
Exactly.
participants.
I actually saw him not too long ago.
He loaned me cash to get my my Jim Chung Thanos piece.
Oh, okay, that's a cool piece.
Yeah, which I later realized that Haymont wanted to buy. I was like, I beat you to it. Sorry, you should have bought it when you saw it. So the trick is bring money, you won't spend it. But if you don't bring money, you're going to find everything
Yeah.
you want. So it's a you got to play the balancing game there.
A couple other things as far as making your plan of attack. I do recommend, like if you want sketches, for example, check the artist's social media pages ahead of time because they might have whether it's their schedule or policies or prices or anything like that. So that's probably worth doing.
More importantly, they might have a pre-convention
That
list.
too. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And they might actually do something for you at home. You just have to pick it up, which is a lot better than
I think Ken
taking
does
your
that.
chances and not getting anything.
Yeah, so if you want something from a particular artist, again, like check if you can reach out to them. You could try that as well. But a lot of times, like they'll post, what their policies are going to be, or like you said, even getting on a list. I'm a big fan now of the apps, the convention apps. Do you use them?
Not really, no.
No.
I found that they're helpful. I mean, obviously you have the guide with you, but the app is pretty handy. And if anything gets changed, at least it'll be you'll have it.
To be honest with you, I'm not really walking the show at all.
Oh, that's true.
I'm generally when I'm at the shows, I'm working for Chris, and Chris says, "Is there anything you want to go do?" And that's their time to go do it. And it's like I'm really just working the shows these days.
Yeah, New York. Last year I saw you at the UR booth. You had like your own little outpost.
Yeah, did pretty well.
What were those pops that you were in
Those
charge
were
of?
clearance pops.
How'd you do with those?
I got rid of, I think, almost all of them.
Good man.
So
Did people try to haggle with you?
no, because they were $5. It's
Well,
like
that-
$5.
that would not stop people.
No, it was like listen, but honestly, it was like pop $5, pop $5. I mean, I had the amount of cash that was in my pocket. It was just like here, I was just handing money to Chris and let them sort it out. And I think he was happy he moved a lot of those clearance pops. But I mean, they were all the same pops. They were all Dipper Pines and stuff because there was exclusives. So they were getting exclusives, and these were the extra pops that came around with them.
Actually, talking about what you just said, pop $5, pop $5, survival tip. As funny as it sounds, don't bring large bills. Don't say I've got $1,000 and they're all hundreds, because you're going to want to go buy something for $10 and the guy's going to tell you, I don't have change, or I'm not giving you all my change. You have to go break that. and no one is going to break that for you.
It's true.
So
Small bills.
Unless you're going and look, I'm going to purchase artwork and I know that my sketches are going to cost me $200, $300, $400, whatever they are, and you're going to be handing this over to the artist, that's fine. But if you're looking for knickknacks, you're looking for little stuff, $5, $10, $20 items, it pays to have at least a certain amount of 5s and 10s and 20s with you to make it easy. The vendor will appreciate it and it'll make your purchasing a lot easier. Whenever I've helped Ron out when he's doing sketches and he's like, I want to raise my prices here. I'm going to, when they were $40, he said, I'm going to make them 50. I said, do not make them 50. He's like, why? I said, because people are going to be giving you 20s and they're going to be giving you 100s and you're going to have to give them change. You feel like carrying around $200, $300, $400 in 10s to give change? No. Make your sketches $60.
And people will pay
people
for
are
it.
going to pay you in 20s, and if someone gives you 100, you're going to give them back 2 of those 20s. And you're going to be dealing in 20s and 100s all day. You don't need change. He's like, oh, okay, that's good. I said, plus you make $10 more sketch. I mean, let's face it, no one's gonna.
I think Ron can just charge $100.
Well, that's what he does now, 100 or 200, even whatever it is now. He's always been inexpensive compared to others, but
well, I hope he's getting his due now and getting all the recognition.
Oh, yeah.
Because Infinity.
Oh, he definitely is. Look, Marvel invited him to the premiere.
Yeah, it was great.
He got to go to that. But in terms of spending, depending upon what you're going for, it's like making sure you have food with you, making sure you drink. Bring along literally the cash you need to buy what you want. It's going to make your buying easier, not potentially make you lose out on something because the vendor can't make change of 100.
Yeah. Well said. So savvy, Drew. This is why
Drew's
you're on
the
this
smart
episode.
one.
That's why I've always had so much crap.
Drew's the smart one. I just kind of tag along.
No. It's all good. No, I think, we'll still a couple more things that we can hit on, but I think this has been great. I mean, hopefully people will find this helpful, especially if they're planning to hit a show like this for their first time.
I think we should bullet point, do a recap of all the survival tips, and because it kind of went off a little bit.
Yeah, and something else, and Brian touched on it, going to smaller shows. Depending upon what your goal is, and especially if it's to meet an artist or meet a writer, contact them and see which shows they're going to be at. Don't think I have to go to San Diego or New York to meet them, because you might not be able to. Are they going to a smaller local show that's closer to where you are? Are they going to a show like Heroes Con in Charlotte, which I suggest everyone go to if you like comic books, because it's one of the last comic book shows out there.
I've been meaning to go to that show.
Yeah,
Me too.
Are they going to, Phoenix has shows now and Dallas has stuff.
Is you are going to Heroes?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
I should ask Chris.
Yeah, I don't know.
I might say I would like to take that trip down.
Bill Mayo goes to a show in Albuquerque.
In New Mexico, yeah.
And for some reason, I shouldn't say some reason, that's rude of me to say, a number of pretty high-profile good artists tend to go to this show. And Bill will go, and there's no one online, there's no one buying anything from him, and he sits around and chats with them the entire show.
Really?
So figure out what it is you want, and especially if it's meeting talent, regardless of what it is, see what their show schedule is for the year, and see if you can find a show that a few of them will be at that you have a better chance of actually meeting with them, chatting with them, getting what you want, this and that. And you'll actually enjoy the show more. Because you'll get to look around at the rest of the show. Also, probably won't be as crowded and everything else.
Maybe that's our biggest tip about surviving one of these big shows. Don't go.
Don't go.
But look,
Well, you can buy it on eBay anyway, right?
But you don't need to go to the big shows to get this stuff. That's the thing. There's probably multiple shows every week, and these artists don't just show up at one show. They go to a lot of stuff.
What did I say? Chris does 40 shows a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of freaking shows,
I know,
man.
he's on the road all the time.
I was in.
You did a show lately.
Well, I helped out a friend of mine who owns a hobby shop.
Right.
And there was this little tiny, teeny show at the Jefferson Valley Mall up in Jefferson Valley, near Mayapack and everything.
I think Chris was at that show.
Chris was there. Yeah. He was there because I saw him. I said, hey, what's going on? He was there, and his booth was there, and this and that. So if you wanted to get pops from Chris and Undiscovered Realm, if he is indeed the biggest vendor on the East Coast, you don't need to go to New York Comic Con to see him. He's at the Jefferson Valley Mall, and just show up, walk into the mall. You're not paying anything, and talk to them and get whatever you want. So don't think you need to go to one of these huge shows to accomplish whatever your goal may be, unless it is just to go to the show and say you went. Then, of course, you need to go.
I mean, I think like that brings us full circle in this idea of, again, like what you want out of it and what your priorities
100%.
are. I mean, I think one rule of thumb, maybe at least I would subscribe to this, is, think about what's unique to that show, what you can't get anywhere else. Because again, like you said, if you can get these pops at a smaller show and save yourself a trip, if that's really what you're in it for, or if you want to meet creators, but you can meet them at another place and have a more substantive, meaningful interaction, you can do that. I mentioned panels before. It's like, a lot of these panels, they're at least reported on, so you'll know what was said. A lot of them are filmed, especially like the big ones and stuff like that. So, if it's really important to you to be in that room and see the cast of a show on the stage, that's fine. Like, the old story, of course, is, Odo used to give Rich Roney a hard time for going to San Diego Comic-Con to hunt for back issues.
Dollar books.
No less.
The dollar books cost him $48.72 after you take into account
Right.
airfare and hotel and everything else.
I don't think it was just about the dollar books, but that's besides the point.
But even if it were, I mean, like if that's, again, like if he wanted the spectacle of it or the social component, or that's just what he wanted out of it.
Since we all know Rich, that's what Rich does at every show.
Right.
He looks for dollar books. I think it's more I think San Diego is more about going away with his friends, having a good time. He's going to do whatever he wants at the show anyway. You guys all meet up and... Rich's thing was going to a panel. I remember him going to a Mark Waid panel. I wish I knew you were doing that, and I would have been like, does he ever remember the kid who walked up and says, "Do you have any interesting Marvel superhero questions or whatever?" And the question came across like, what happens when Juggernaut runs into the Blob? Because it's unstoppable force against the immovable object, right?
Yeah, the irresistible force against the immovable object.
So, and it stumped Mark Waid, and I remember that was like one of the funniest things. And Rich Roney was in that panel as well. So, if he ever listens to this podcast, he'll probably remember that. I think that was at a Philly show.
I don't know if he'll listen to this. Ben from Zap is not on it. And
there's
no
I
Wizard
know.
Discussion. So
I mean, we're not high profile enough. Ben from Zap Comics, you're the celebrity for Rich, man. Congratulations.
In all seriousness, that's true.
We are all envious. We always fight for the Rich Roney seat. You have a number one. He comes to you. We have to go to Rich. He comes to you.
That's true. But we've covered a lot. I mean, any other tips that either of you wanted to share? Anything that comes to mind?
No, I don't know, man. I mean, again, working the shows are a lot different than being an attendee, because you're at the booth almost the entire show. You get very few breaks. I don't know, man. It's tough. I would like to go to a show as an attendee. I mean, we did last year, but it was a small show when we could walk around with Ron. But we were mostly with Ron the entire time anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't collect comic books anymore. The original artwork has gotten so prohibitively expensive, especially the stuff that I like, that I don't go searching for it anymore. So I've gotten to the point where I go to a show just to see people and say hi. I don't go because of what's at the show. I go because of who's at the show. But it's definitely different. But I will say that all things said and done, if I had a choice of going to New York Comic-Con or San Diego Comic-Con now, or going back to the late 80s and early 90s and going to the old shows in New York City, I go to those old shows.
Yeah, old shows 100%.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But it's so media intense. I remember comic books as it was cool because nobody else liked them, and we were labeled as geeks and nerds and dorks and whatever, and we got made fun of it because we like comic books. And then all of a sudden, these movies came out and like, oh, we like comic books now. It's just like, well, you really just jumping on the bandwagon here. It's like, that's why these shows got so big. And then obviously you're in a big metropolitan area, and San Diego was the first to do it, I guess, because that's why they were so popular.
Well, San Diego just has had the show since the early 70s.
Right.
It just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
So I'm not too clear in my history, but then New York got it, and New York is now larger than San Diego, and then they're adding on to the Javits now.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so they're going to make the Javits even bigger, so it might actually be a larger facility than San Diego soon. So
speaking of, being in a metropolitan area, like depending on where you are in the country, you might be shocked at the price of food and other things when you come to one of these shows. So just kind of be prepared for that.
That's why I never minded going to San Diego, because, what I was spending on food there, no matter, it was generally less than what I spent on food here anyway.
That's the
We're desensitized because we're New Yorkers.
Every
we are
show,
desensitized.
Every show we go to, everyone's like, "Oh, we can't go and eat there." I said, "Why?" I said, "It costs less than for me. It costs less than it does back home." I don't know.
True.
I work in the city and I eat in the city every day. So
Well, you've been doing your meal prep now, though, right?
Yeah. That's actually for the last 2 weeks. I have actually money in my pocket, so it's crazy.
That makes a big difference.
He bought me dinner today.
Nice. Where'd you go?
Pizza place.
Venetian or somewhere else?
No, Slice of
Scarsdale.
Slice of Scarsdale. on Garth
Shout
Road.
out to the Slice of
sure.
Scarsdale guys.
Yes, very good pizza. Go eat there.
Very nice. Hey, they didn't pay for a sponsorship. No,
We can get you one.
Well, speak kind of on that note. Let me explain what I have, what I'm cooking up here with this Patreon. Were you guys familiar with what this is or no?
Only
I'm
because
sort of familiar.
I read your post on Facebook, but that's the only reason why I know what it is.
So Patreon is a monthly membership program where users or patrons can help creators get paid for their work. So it's something that I've been thinking about for a while. Obviously, I did the Kickstarter in the fall to raise money for the documentary, but I want to kind of do the same thing with the podcast. And the idea with this is, the podcast is free, has been free, will always be free. You don't have to pay anything to listen to these episodes. But if you become a member of this Patreon, it will help me and able to continue to do this and hopefully do more of it. I mean, if I'm...
Hey, now.
What?
Do more.
more.
I've always said do more. I think more content is better. And you've been rocking it, man.
Well, no, I appreciate that. But it's, people are always asking, like, whenever I show up with my equipment, whether it's to film or record, people are always asking, like, oh, do you have a day job? You get paid for this? And it's like, well, like, I'm working on it. But, this is one of the ways that I want to work on it. And, so the idea is you pledge a low-level monthly amount. We have rewards from like the $1 to $5 range. And in exchange for that, you get exclusive content. So
if I sign up, will I get a DVD?
No physical rewards, damn it. Listen, it was great for the Kickstarter doing the shirts and doing the Blu-rays, but it took a long time making those Blu-rays. So for this, we're going to keep it digital, but like full-length bonus episode. And then the new thing that I'm starting up that I'm excited about is the My Comic Shop History After Show.
Okay.
So once we're done recording here, we'll record the first installment of that.
Cool.
Because the way it always works is, we record these episodes, don't be a flat squirrel, see you next week, all that stuff. And then we'll usually sit around for a few more minutes and talk without recording. And so I'm going to leave the mics on and we'll
Fair
keep
enough.
chatting for a little bit. It'll be like a little behind the scenes stuff, or maybe we'll follow up on things that we mentioned in the episode proper. So that'll be one of the major rewards. So that's the thing. It's going to launch. I've been building the page now, but it'll launch on June 27th.
Cool.
I'll be posting it everywhere. So
Why specifically June 27th?
Well, I wanted to give people a couple of weeks to just
July
to
1st.
know what it is. Well, that's when the next episode will be coming out. So I wanted
I got you.
There's always a reason.
There is a reason.
There's always a reason for this. But
Method to the madness.
But in the meantime, again, I mentioned some of the things that I have in mind for rewards. But if anyone out there, or either of you here, if you have ideas for things that you would want as rewards, digital rewards.
Oh, digital rewards.
Feel free to reach out because if it's something that I'm able to do, I would definitely take it into account and try.
Well, I think you probably should try to talk to Chris to maybe, say, here's a 5 or 10% discount or something, for listening to the show.
Oh, interesting. A discount. I like that.
So, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, that's something you would have to talk to Chris.
Maybe something like that. But, I appreciate everyone listening. I appreciate everyone, you guys included, of course, who contributed to the Kickstarter and, everyone who's been part of this journey. So this is kind of the next iteration of that. And, I'm always talking. What you got there?
The Sagat. Thanks, Chris Giarusso, by the way.
That's right. The reward you got for the Kickstarter was
a Sagat.
Was the sketch.
I don't have my sketch yet.
I know. We'll talk about that in the after show.
Okay.
It's coming. So that'll be launching on the 27th. So keep an eye out for that. Before we wrap up, I just want to mention though, going back to our convention talk, we were talking about these pop culture elements that have been invading, and it's not limited to conventions. It's been interesting as I've been filming for this new documentary. It's something I'm hearing a lot from stores as well. And there's been a bit of a divide in the stores that I've been to. Stores, on the one hand, who diversify and carry pops and other toys and gaming and action figures and t-shirts and that kind of stuff. And then other stores that are very, very specific and adamant that we do comics, we do trades, we do back issues. Like they're comics only, and they really wear that like a badge of honor. So it's been a little bit of a divide, and it's been interesting talking to the stores for the movie and then talking to convention organizers and attendees for the podcast. And this theme has been pretty consistent in both. So it's just kind of interesting.
I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with diversifying. I mean, I think that's the way you have to go, especially going to the future. I think you interviewed a young lady who in Philadelphia who has the coffee shop.
That's right, Amalgam.
Yeah, so I think that I was like, Jesus, why didn't anybody ever think about that before? It's like
because people touching the books is bad enough, let alone spilling coffee on them.
I mean that's true, but like
so they do have signs. They don't let you into the comic section with your coffee, and I don't think you can bring the books into the coffee section unless you've bought them already. I think that's the deal.
That makes sense.
So they do have some precautions in
place. But that's like going
to,
like the Barnes and Nobles has a Starbucks in it. It's almost the same concept.
Yeah.
So
did you notice the non-diversified stores being in, shall I call it,
Middle America,
more affordable areas of the country where they can get away with not diversifying?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Because they're paying $400 a month rent. I mean, a comic book, whatever the issue is, costs $4 here and it costs $4 there. When you're paying $7,000 a month rent here and you're paying $400 a month rent there, it makes a difference
traffic,
what you sell. No, but you still need to sell more. Maybe we have 300 customers and they have 50.
Right.
But they're still paying, 1/10.
Of course.
The price, but they still have, 35% the traffic or whatever it is. So you'll probably find there's some sort of correlation there between demographic and where you are versus how much you have to diversify.
100%.
So before we wrap this up and then record our little after show, anything else that either of you wanted to say on our subject of surviving cons?
I think we should just do a recap of all the points.
Well, when I post the episode,
fair enough.
I listen to this and
so
edit
you can
everything.
you can do an ad at the end or
Best
something.
thing you can do to survive con is raise your shields.
I want to thank both. I do want to thank both of you for sharing your insight, and this really has been a blast. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully people listening to this will find it helpful, and for those of you going to any con, whether it's your first one or your 10th or whatever, have a good time, and hopefully, again, some of the stuff that we said will serve you well on the convention floor.
And if it doesn't, well, you might die on the floor anyway, so we won't have to.
So as I said at the top, the con talk will resume in September over these summer months. I hope you enjoy the 2-part My Comic Shop book club event and then the 4-part Beyond My Comic Shop miniseries. So the book club episode will run in 2 weeks. We'll see you then. And until then, don't be a flat squirrel.